Dominant. Let's get into pick and ban for game number 2. Griffin now on your blue side, and Khan has the counter pick potentially, Papa Smithy. This could be exciting.
And Griffin fans can now say, aha, we've seen your trick, now we know about it, we're not going to be caught in the same way. What does that mean, though, in terms of the draft or the series result? We can't know. We get to be the Mythbusters, you and I, Atlas.
Yep.
Find out front row how things will change. We're on to the blue side, like you mentioned, for Griffin. Bans on the red side for Griffin were the Lucian, Kalista, and the Jace. So blue side, of course, you get a bit more flexibility in what you want to ban away. And Martyrs Thresh actually going to take the first round ban. Is played a lot of it this season, 3-1 on the pick. But I wonder what it says about what Griffin want to run in the duo, because to me, that's the bigger reason to ban Thresh blue side.
Yeah, and it might be Griffin thinking about picking themselves up something like a Braum. Not entirely sure what it does mean as Vladimir the first ban. Jace and Lucian are looming as the most likely last 2 bans here for SKT, but they could certainly change things up. Just think Galio is going to take pride of place.
When I see a Vladimir ban, I think that's a lot about removing Vladimir bot lane. Of course, Viper is the Vladimir player on the side of Griffin. The reason you might want to do that is to force the enemy to first pick AD carry and then get another good AD carry matchup. That's what I think when I see the Vladimir, because you can first pick Vladimir and flex it. You can't first pick Ezreal and flex it in the same way. And I think SKT want Griffin to first pick AD carry purely from this first ban Vladimir.
Well, the Jace is going to be the ban choice here, giving Griffin a free Zoe if they want to go towards it without having Faker's LeBlanc as the answer. Could be a theory here for Griffin, but still so much left available. The whole AD carry pool is up. Lucian available. 10 seconds to go. We'll see what Griffin are actually going to decide on.
First pick AD carry is what we were betting on, and we do see it. Kalista first pick with Nocturne open if Clid wants to fall back to that. It's been one of his fallbacks. Could also consider Jarvan, but Jarvan doesn't have a great matchup into Kalista, purely because she can skip around in such annoying fashion. So because of that, see how SKT approached this first round. They first picked Braum, and that would
Lucian Braum could come out here.
It could. Lucian Braum, we've seen working against most lanes outside of Ashtam Kench, which amusingly was actually really strong into it yesterday. I was thinking about the first pick Braum for Griffin as a takeaway, but Lehends has lower priority on the pick, so we're going to see that Braum here. First round Lissandra going to be the decision. So Zoe's open, and Zoe has a good matchup into Lissandra, but SKT want to be proactive in the early game, and they've already proven they can do that, so I don't mind them taking a bit of a dog matchup in the 1v1, and there's no guarantee Griffin don't go in a different direction with their mid laner.
And I was actually expecting this out of Griffin as well. The last bastion of Fate's Call Hope coming in with the Alistar, but the Aurelia to be locked in. I'm surprised you didn't see more attention, as all solo laners on both of these teams have been practicing a lot of this Aurelia.
See that Aurelia is in the dumpster in the LCK 1 and 9. We haven't seen too much of Aurelia on the new patch. We saw Flame attempt it a couple of days ago. Takeaway I want to talk about with the Aurelia is that blind pick Aurelia is becoming a thing on 9.4 again, but mostly it's a top lane blind pick. It's been seen, Wunder, for example, and G2 loves to play that one. It's happened in Challengers. We'll see it more and more. I believe it was a blind pick in the LCK already. So we're thinking top lane, but it's also been a mid laner situation into things like Zoe. The Lissandra matchup is a little bit more all around the place, but Chovy is an unbelievable team fight. Aurelia hasn't played it since Casper Cup, I believe. Maybe one game this season. Summon a cleanse. Could be anything. Could be an outside chance of that Aurelia. And the Lucian first round, I was talking to you about how I thought Lucian was lower priority as a ban. You noticed skipped over by Griffin. SKT will accept it. But with Ezreal open, Ezreal's going to go unpicked in this series.
Yeah, not going to see any of it, as the Kalista was the priority here for Griffin. Remember, the 3 AD carries that we were talking about are the ones that were banned in game number 1.
Jungle-wise, the easiest tool to deal with a Kalista is to squish her like a bug. Nocturne, very good at that. That's why the Nocturne had to be first round or would be banned. They prize the Lucian over something like the preferential jungle matchup. Very interesting to see where Clid goes. Again, Jarvan Elise is what I think of. Elise probably is more threat onto Kalista, but you can't always think about it in a pure linear fashion. The Aatrox probably a jungle ban here, but also was played by Khan in game number 1.
Yep.
Means chances of Urgot are down, so we can maybe all breathe a sigh of relief there.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit worried. I mean, it hasn't been banned just yet. It's Clid thinking about bringing back his Rek'Sai. He had a fantastic performance on it last time we saw him.
And if that Q hits onto the Kalista, ain't no dodging.
Oh, yeah.
With all the hopping mad there. It's going to end up being the Jarvan after all. It's increasingly becoming higher priority. It's big in the LPL as a Cinderhawk jungler, since Cinderhawk and Warrior. In the LCK,
Clid is also 5-0 on the champion. He's had a lot of great performances as far as getting around early is concerned.
Nice thing about picking it here is it a top laner? Is a question that Griffin have to ponder. You take a ranged top laner, Jarvan can kind of grin and bear it in pretty reliable fashion. Griffin gonna blind pick Urgot again. And this is probably where a sinking feeling is coming into some Griffin fans. It's a big surprise to see them rate this pick as high as they are currently. Could be a mid lane pick, I guess, an outside chance, but surprising to see. And we do see the Elise, but it's going to be in Tarzan's hand. It's not a pick that's been kind to Tarzan in the past, even though in Challengers and in the early parts of his career, it was a big pick for him. In the LCK, it has not been.
But still, this is going to give Griffin a lot more leverage in the earlier stages of the game. I mean, level 3, once that comes in, even level 2 for the Elise is going to be fun times for the Spider League.
And 2v2.
Oh, just do it, Khan.
It's pretty reliable. This would be, with an uncertain matchup, but probably an Urgot. And we see it!
Oh, let's go!
Khan's bringing back the Riven. He's feeling the 9.4. And is it today versus yesterday in SKT versus Griffin? They feel like they're more willing to flex the new stuff. SK Telecom T1, Riven versus Urgot top lane matchup. Super hyped to see.
Yep. Have to remember, Spear of Sojourn pretty damn good on the old Riven. Generally picked up second item, and Canyon was even building it from the jungle, as SKT could theoretically still have the jungle Riven here. We have to wait until the clock ticks down. Griffin, a very different identity, though, from what their previous composition was. Based on how this game is going to play out in the earlier stages, a lot more reliance on Tarzan being very mobile, as it is confirmed Riven top.
Really strong lanes to gank, though, on the side of SKT. Lucian Braum, Lissandra, even the top lane here of Riven can have on-demand CC and has a lot of gap close. So Jarvan could potentially get things going in a big way. Just like SKT have looked best when they've been playing recently, has been those early agency comps. But similar things could be said about the side of Griffin, just with a little bit less reliability outside of, say, Alistair when it comes to the availability of lanes. You see, could definitely see a flash buffer of the Despair on the side of Urgot, but it feels like SKT and Griffin are once again fighting on pretty equal footing when it comes to early identity. But I look at the comps and say, maybe SKT does it a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly right. You can see we've seen all of these champions work so well on this current patch. Even the Riven in the hands of Khan, you have to cast your mind back to the Gen G series, but my goodness, I don't think he died in that game. And also team fought very well, getting the flanks that he needed to. See whether Griffin can get over the line. It's once again the Urgot pick. You'll have to make us a believer sword as we get into game number 2. Griffin versus SKT. Can Griffin fight back? SKT fans, their voices are booming throughout LoL Park at the moment. This has been almost the most fan interaction that we have had so far. There is not an empty seat in the entire arena, and we're even going to be able to bask in it for a little bit longer, as we are going to have a slight pause. I believe Clid had trouble getting onto the map, as you can see.
Unfortunate there. May need a partial reset. We'll get more information out to you as we know it. Give us a bit more time to, as you say, bask in the scenario, bask in the moment. Because we're sitting here, SK Telecom T1 have doubled Griffin's losses in spring of 2019. In fact, doubled Griffin's game losses since the start of Kesper Cup, which was in December of last year. They have now dropped 2 games since then. And we look at the draft here and we like a lot about what SKT has. When we get back into game, I'll talk about why it feels, once again, similar identities, but I like SKT's side a little bit more. But looking around LoL Park, the God Killer SK Telecom T1, awesome Baker sign out there. The fans are packed in. It was a hot ticket sold out in seconds, of course. SK Telecom T1 versus Griffin. Thank you for joining us around the world. Over 100,000 viewers also between Twitch and YouTube, as you would expect. Yeah,
absolutely. This is a huge matchup.
And match of the day, any day of the week.
Exactly. Happy anniversary to Chovy there as well, as you can see.
What's Bart Simpson saying? Says, Griffin, let's go, 11 win streak. Thank you, G-Sun, for the translation there.
Yep, very cute. Also a very quick Bart drawing there. As a Tarzan fan, I want to be on air, SKT.
Well, so far, I think that's even his, his seat number, I think, there. Could be there. But another Korean Army person as well. Of course, people going out there. People love to come to LoL Park before they head out to their national service. People just hype that list. How could you not be? The Game 1 result is the hype generator. It means people dare to dream, and people who have had nothing to worry about are sweating. And that is where action happens. That is the intersection that leads to maximum hype. So,
well, based on the result of game number one, there's no way that we lose. It's just not even going to happen, right? Skipped work in order to come to see SKT play is what these fan signs are saying, and you can completely understand why. We're very lucky we get to go to work and watch this particular game. Oh, her husband was staying at work.
But the wife gets to watch the games. Well, she wins out tonight, for sure.
Exactly.
It's
the
hottest
definite
ticket.
husband points.
It's the one people around the world will be watching this in bad time zones. People at work in Korea are going to be sneaking, saying, I wish my Friday was over. Why am I watching the game on my phone? A lot of people watch League of Legends on their phone in Korea. I know that's one of the big ways to actually take in the LCK. Well, we're going to zoom in. Break is over. The action is starting. Doran Shield, Riven top lane against the Urgot. Atlas, take us away.
Yeah, and we've got an early ward being put down here by SKT. That was Calm that chucked his down. As Riven versus Urgot. Feels like a pretty good matchup for the Riven now that Urgot has been slammed with the ban hammer. We thought that it was a home run, that this Urgot was not going to poke his head back into the LCK, but Griffin have done it 100% of their games on this patch so far.
And the longer you read the nerf on the shield, I think the more you should understand how big that single nerf was, alongside the Q mana cost nerf for a second patch in a row.
I mean, after the cooldown nerf from the patch before as well. I mean,
because it's the base shield is halved at level 1. You know, halved is obviously really bad, 60 to 30. But the health ratio is nerfed as well. So it starts worse and gets worse. So that's just worse.
Yeah.
So it means that shrugging off QW trades from a Riven and all the autos that you're going to work in there is just going to be worse. There's no way to play around that, right? That's just the reality of the nerf in that scenario. And speaking again about the comps, a lot of strong lanes for SKT to gank. And you could argue for Griffin to gank as well. But do notice that there's a single damage profile on the side of Griffin, and there's a mixed damage profile when they're solo laners. And that means that, yes, Elise will bring some magic damage, but there's just more for Sword to build than just purely armor. And if you see him stacking armor, Lissandra flexes like we saw in game number 1, and his life becomes that much more difficult.
We also know how good Faker is on the pick as well, as Clid's come down to the bottom lane very early. A level 2 gank right now, as he's looking to get in onto Lehens. This could be an opportunity. Flash already blown. Clid very successful, very early.
And it's the flash you want. You'd much rather Alistar's flash than Callista's. Callista's always annoying to hit. Now it's a melee champion, has to walk up for any lane presence, having no flash. So that's a return target for the next 5 minutes for SKT.
Yeah, and also gives Teddy complete run of the lane for its almost entirety.
That was definitely LPL Clid coming out there. Very standard MLXG path of red buff into bot lane gank.
Yep.
Comes through there. Only had 4 CS at the time. Early timer throws off the Griffin duo. An unsettling Lehens and Viper is what the TP Tristana and first pick Braum in game number 1 did. They've already got a similar advantage in game number 2.
Yep, now Faker playing with priority here in this mid lane as well, as Jovi's just trying to auto-attack these minions to death, get himself a decent position in this lane, does clear things up.
But doesn't it feel peculiar that on 9.4, Jovi's picking Irelia into Lissandra, and so it's playing Urgot? Both those picks are a little bit, like they had Zoe available, but they weren't confident in returning to that pick. They wanted to go for this Irelia, and it wasn't a blind pick for Sword. It ended up being a mid lane pick for Chovy, a matchup that, unlike Irelia versus Zoe, is a little bit more even because Aftershock and just the general slipperiness of Lissandra takes away solo kill potential. It is an outscale matchup in the side lane. Irelia can dunk on both these champions over time at certain breakpoints, but if Chovy gets set behind, if that time never comes, then perhaps SKT will have all the aces up their sleeve.
Well, I'm looking at where Tarzan is, and thankfully our observers are as well, as it looks like we're attempting a dive. Level 4 has been gained by the Spider Lady, as we're in camp parity between the two junglers.
Nice to see Tarzan on a champion that can hit the Rift Pre-6. He hasn't been tending towards those picks recently. At least does it worse at level 2, but just as good as Jarvan at level 3 onwards. Doesn't know this thwarted.
Yep, Gang Sense is tingling here as it's a good unbreakable. Marta's going to mitigate a lot of this damage, but is it going to be enough? Flashes out of the way as now Teddy's looking to jump onto Viper. First Blood will go down as eventually Lehens gets it with the back end of the Ignite, and thankfully Repel exists. Teddy gets cocooned. Oh my god, cool guys don't look at explosions, and it's Viper that grabs the kill.
How do you get a 2 for 0 in that scenario, even with the Repel? It's amazing that Griffin, with the extra turret damage and the ward actually getting full value, are able to come away with the 2 kills. They needed to fire a shot. They were just listening to SKT fire a shot in game number 1. It starts off all in onto Braum. They don't blow him up, and then when you see the turret damage onto Viper, you think this could be a fiesta from the side of Griffin.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see Teddy trying to kite this one out, but the repel is used. Tarzan just out of range, and Viper's just able to get it, I believe, with a Ren set there. So the volatile Spiderling not even necessary. They had more damage than they needed.
And this was when Lehens didn't have flash to reset aggro. So the fact that they could make that play happen after SKT got first advantage bot side rewrites what was looking like another SKT bot lane in bliss in the early game.
Yeah, they are going to be able to reset here, and the CS department is not an issue, but Bilgewater Cutlass and only a double longsword in for Teddy. Item advantage for the Kalista, and we know that Viper has been spamming this champion in solo queue, and it's only going to get worse as we get deeper into the mid-game, because that's where this 2-item spike for the Kalista is going to be so incredibly relevant.
And for pro players as well, they're very proud, right? These are all some of the best players in the world at their position, and the reason why I mentioned that point is, you come away from game number 1, and yes, your coach saying, don't worry, go back to the scrims, go back to the previous performance. Remember, you guys are undefeated. On the day, the players don't remember the history points. They don't remember it's their 300th game. They remember how game 1 went, and Griffin controlled nothing. They were dictated to for the first time through an entire game in 2019. So it means so much to their pride to actually find a hit that SKT wasn't able to shrug off in the early game.
Yeah, now Chovy's actually getting a bit of a run of this lane. You can see the CS difference. It's quite large in favor of the Aurelia. Bit of a big minion wave is going to head towards the Lissandra, but I don't see enough minions to be able to equalize this one.
It's a matchup where when Aftershock is up, you can shrug off damage, but you don't have Aftershock for 100% uptime, and it can be faded from Aurelia aggression. So, understandably, Faker is giving away lane control to the Aurelia. To what end, we're unsure. It is Chovy's first game on the reworked Aurelia. Bot side control was SKT's last game. Don't find it here. It means that Tarzan is onto the mountain drift.
Yeah, not a lot of control, in fact, over to SKT at the moment, as Lehens is going to get first roam up to this dragon. Khalid is going to spot that it is being taken, as Tarzan wants to get himself over the wall, does get over to the Scryer's Bloom. He's going to trade that one over, so Mountain Drake not going to be taken here just yet.
A lot of good map reading coming through from Clid and Tarzan this series. Clid ahead of the play here. He's level 6 also, so does feel very comfortable to walk up and at least have to give up caps to bluff the dive, as we saw. Remember that Aurelia no longer can reduce damage on her W from AP champions. One of the reasons we don't see Aurelia into mages is that you channel that W, you take full magic damage. So it'll be much harder to shrug off in the 2v2 if the enemy team opens up onto Chovy.
Interesting matchup up here towards the top side of the map. You can see very even at the moment. Khan, level 7, going to be going into the Black Cleaver as item number 1. And we'll see whether it's Spear of Sojourn to get that 40% CDR as well as the Essence Flare passive.
Feels like Khan might have to go QSS in this matchup. QSS does drop the Urgot ult, as most people know, but the big issue here is you just don't get many base stats, a lot of health onto the Ribbon, so quite easy for Elise and Urgot to burst you down if you actually the first CC hits, so yeah, that's something that happens. Spear of Shojin, of course, does have some health in it, as you mentioned. Likely to be the first rush. Tarzan has crept in, and this game SKT don't have the spoilers on Tarzan's path that they did in game number 1. They also don't have too much incentive to walk forward aggressively.
Yeah, you can see the minion wave is being held onto pretty nicely here from SKT. They've been making sure that they're tanking up the minion wave just out of turret range. And they are being very respectful to the potential spider that could be lurking just around the corner.
You don't get to be respectful in lanes without punishments in 2019. You can win lane hard and get gold doing it. Turret plate won already. The side of Griffin.
Yep, this Alice to Kalista lane is getting real scary, especially now that Fate's Call is online. Khan winning out on a trade here towards the top side of the map, but Sword is underneath his turret. Things are absolutely fine, but as far as the lanes and how they were going to shape up is concerned, I was expecting SKT to have a much better time in this early game. Thankfully, Tarzan helped the bottom lane very, very much.
It looked like the Alistair passive revealed there. I'm not sure if that's a quirk of our vision. I know there can be some weird things with how that goes on there, but SKT already knew it was likely Elise was in the lane, but got the double confirmation from what we could tell. Got us zooming in onto this moment. Tarzan back top side. And like you say, kind of the biggest surprise is that other things being equal, Urgot's not suffering at all in the matchup.
Yeah.
It does feel like the range versus melee that it would have been in our analysis pre-Urgot changes.
Well, control wall goes down. Griffin making sure that they can get towards Shelly if they need to. Faker's going to come on up. He's going to exchange some vision here, so no one going to be giving over her for free. Shelly Rivers is going to be at least scoped out for the majority of this game. As cleared, came down bottom lane, got himself a flash, but otherwise has been very quiet so far this game. He's accrued himself a bit of a CS advantage. Cinderhulk not quite completed just yet.
I'm already thinking about where this game can go on, and if we can emulate some of the fights we saw in game number 1. They were amazing to see between Griffin and SKT. Definitely you can see Riven just accidentally killing Elise trying to get to somebody else, because of course Elise is always going to be eminently squishy in fights, but a lot of burst damage on both sides to respect.
See Chovy just taking approximately 0 damage here in this lane at the moment. Ionian Fervor helping him there, keeping him very healthy. Is now Khan in a dangerous position. There's the flash to stay. Cocoon misses though! Tarzan with a rare mistake now. This Khan should be able to get himself around towards this Urgot. SKT getting themselves some control now on the map.
Couldn't work out the angles in game number 1 with some of their approaches. Don't work them out in game number 2, and with how much time was invested, Griffin gets to swag walk away, and suddenly summon her down on sword.
Yeah, and it feels like the flow-on effect is very important here for SKT as well. They were able to get a lot of control elsewhere with the information that the Elise was top side. And now no flash on the Urgot.
One of the possible reasons that Riven has been playing for so far behind is after the dive, that's the lane you gank. We already outlined, do you need a QSS to go through this lane? That lets you know already Riven's going to have a target on her back. So smart of Riven to always be considering moving back, and just couldn't turn the flip into Cocoon like Griffin wanted.
Well, we're very close to a Blade of the Ruin King for Teddy, but Viper's completed his.
It's got more gold, right? Got the turret plate.
A lot more. Extra kill there as well.
Exactly, and that means that the Drake speed is super high, but right now, not have enough control, and credit to SKT who have invested all their vision bot side. They're leaving Riven to, at worst, halve out the lane, and Faker just to, let Chovy have his will, but they will not give up Mountain Drakes by hook or by crook.
Yeah. Very interesting here from Chovy. We see a lot from the top lane Aurelias that Tiamat is generally the rush. This time it's just going to be straight into Boots 2 and Trinity Force by the looks of things. Back timing for Teddy just to try and get to item parity here as Blade of the Ruin King now completed, but that is 3 turret plates most likely going to go down.
Doesn't feel like he can stay for the extra one. I see that the turret plate is
going to
cashed
go.
in.
Because now Sword could be in trouble. Great knockup comes in from Clid. Another one to follow there from Khan. Teleport from Faker. He's a little bit late. The stopwatch timing is in there as Clid is able to get a double kill for Faker. And that scoreline is all tied up.
SKT are a step ahead again. The TP comes in. It's not noticed by Tarzan. He flashes over into his doom. If he knew Faker was teleporting and you don't make that play, you are always outnumbered.
And this just makes Chovy's life so much harder as Teddy on the bottom side of the map is looking for turret plates with 2 dead. This is actually a huge deal because now Lehens, is he going to be able to defend this? It looks like he is. So Shelly not going to get taken. It's just bottom lane that is going to benefit.
And it vindicates Faker hanging back till he finds his moment because he gets to watch on as Chovy runs the lane and then reclaim the gold advantage or parity with 2 kills in the play. This is a really big mistake from Tarzan, who is always talked of as having that big brain and thinking on that next level. Watch the replay here. We see the play happening. The TP comes in. Can't be seen in Fog of War, of course, but Tarzan focuses on the moment. He doesn't feel like he can wait for the bounce over, so he flashes to get there faster into his instant doom from SKT.
And also misses Faker looking extraordinarily calm.
And that's what happens when you win game number 1, Atlas. You don't have to be shouting too much about this scenario. The flash to get to his doom faster. And like you say, Tarzan's Elise not finding any inroads. Something we criticized of his Elise pick in summer last year.
So now, benefit over to Griffin on the bottom side of the map will still exist. More turret plates, more money, you can see more items. Coming in for Viper.
Now, as I was asked on stream, the question of overrated and underrated teams when it comes to looking all the way forward.
That was a fun one.
To MSI. And obviously we're really early. We don't know who's in playoffs. We don't know who the best team is in our regions. But obviously Griffin is the one you talk about.
Yeah.
And I chose Griffin as the most overrated because honestly, since week 1 when they were playing all the crazy stuff, the Elise support, they've been pretty passive. They kind of just waited their moments and then won because they are a super solid, settled team. They haven't been playing proactive League of Legends Invictus Gaming style or, honestly, patch 9.x style, 9.34 especially. They've largely just been waiting. And this game, they're trying to make those proactive moves, and man, did the bot lane turret dive work? But there's some quirks, there's some rust here from Griffin, and I don't think they're finished article right now that some people believe, although they're trying to make us
believers. Absolutely. As Lahens takes a full culling, and Viper's actually able to answer back with a lot of damage. Teddy, not a lot of mana here in his back pocket. But I actually really like that you mentioned Griffin as being overrated, because I feel like you have to overrate them, because they are undefeated so far, and till potentially this series as SKT is starting to fight back in this game. But
they are still a really good team. They deserve to be confidently talked about as one of the world's best, but they're not the one. They're one of. They have to prove that they're truly able to play all the styles, to really fit the current patches, and that's where I feel they've been a bit off. We've got the double Urgot game here. We see some of their gaps in their playbook when they're trying to play aggressively. They are not the finished article, and that's fine. We're only halfway through the season.
Yeah, and we also know that Griffin can have some really weird meta reads. I mean, we remember the Funnolution that they tried 2 games in a row in 2018 that just looked like they were playing a different game throughout most of their scrims or something like that. It was very, very strange. Shelly did go over to Griffin here this time around, though, and this is not that story. Mountain Drake is going to be the trade here as Lahens taking a lot of damage. Good pulverize. Gets a lot done, but you can see SKT, they just want to take down this turret to answer the top lane pressure that Griffin are putting down.
Think of a different game, Atlas, where the 2 kills don't go the way of SKT and there wouldn't have been trades. There would have been just Griffin getting things. Yeah. Griffin is trying to recreate the game state when they got the double kill by playing actively, and they will get this second turret. SKT's fighting back more than you might expect, and Faker's actually taking the claw.
Yeah, he's actually going to throw down the ultimate there. Chovy misses his, but Sword should be able to walk out of this unless Khan can actually land something. Tarzan not a lot to offer back, but Q and Griffin are going to capitalize. Out of turret mid lane should be the prize, but they do back away very early as SKT rotated down.
Curious decision to actually commit to the claw, because the moment you see that, you're like, okay, these two don't have the damage. Who's coming? It was only Jarvan. The rest of the team wasn't actually closing in from SKT, so they end up losing mid lane turret HP to a pretty critical value as well, when it didn't really seem like there were fangs behind what seemed like a toothless engage by Faker.
Yeah. Faker actually down a lot as far as CS is concerned, close to 30.
Who's spanking who here, Atlas?
Tarzan looking to come in. Winter's Bite going to tag up Lahens as once again Teddy, a lot of damage down. Ultimate has to be used very defensively from the Alistair, and this should open up this outer turret mid lane for SKT, especially with Clit coming in from the side.
Are we feeling it, Clit?
Yeah, can he get the Cataclysm underneath this turret is the question. SKT, another claw, not going to be taken this time. His Sword is going to face check, doesn't get knocked up by the flag and drag as Clit wants to try and challenge. Throws down the smite, but I think Viper managed to pick that one up with a rend.
There's a chance of a next level there when we saw the Urgot crab walking his way in, but not going to lead to anything. Teddy has some pressure and double control ward, if you don't mind, to push up in the mid lane. He will appreciate that to get him towards that 2-item spike. Speaking of 2-item spikes, Viper has had to hold off on his by going for a QSS early in the piece. Watching the vision toggle here, you can of course see the effects of the Rift Herald. And that's how SKT would have been aware that the play started.
You can see no pings actually, so didn't spot. Shelly moving out, of course not going to be visible on the mini-map or anything like that. You'd have to be watching.
Yeah, just showing about vision juke, because SKT were the ones that controlled the Rift Scuttle there. The fact that you can get around, and only if you mouse over and check for the effects do you get the spoiler that Elise is on.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they could have potentially seen her for maybe a split second or something like that while she walked over that vision.
You can't criticize not seeing it, because you have to have your screen on an objective that you have no reason to know it started, especially when you have Rift Scuttle vision.
Really, really nicely done here from Griffin, and that's what's going to give them that slight gold advantage, but 1,000 gold at 19 minutes, there is nothing in this one. It's already a very similar scenario to, I guess, what the early game of game number 1 was telling us, when we thought that Griffin should have just been able to handle a 2-0 yet again. We weren't worried at all for Griffin until about this time in game number 1, but SKT coping nicely. See whether they're going to be able to get an advantage back here as we move into the mid-game.
They do have an advantage, and I want to show you the mini-map here. The vision advantage here and the amount of control wards on the map is very one-sided to SKT. Like game number 1, they actually control the pace of the game better. And that's from, you know, a position where they're slightly behind, right? This feels like a 55-45 start towards Griffin. But SKT have been really on point with vision, and a lot of Ruby Crystals means it's not as much access to vision on the side of Griffin, and that means that for now, SKT are probably more comfortable and more breathing room than maybe they should be granted at 20 minutes.
Well, in the inventory, you've only got 3 control wards for Griffin, whereas there's 7 in SKT's back pocket, and they already have so many more on the map still there, as Lehens is going to get rid of one of them, but we know how easily they're going to be replaced. As okay, Chovy going to jump onto Marta, but stand behind me, going to get him out of there. Maybe panicked on that blast cone just a little bit, but otherwise is completely fine.
A lot of posturing, though. It's a what does it mean thing, because we know he has no vision there, and there's not going to be solo kill potential onto a Braum with the speed required to make such a play with no vision. So it's a bit of growling, I would say, from Chovy. He wants to hit the side lane. He's got his items ready to go. He's going to start building towards the outscale. Usually Sterix is where you just run at Faker and wait to kill him after the aftershock wears off, is usually the approach you take on a very long lane. It's not the longest. The outer turret is still up, and desperately want 3 outer turrets down from a Griffin perspective.
Well, Lehens, he's not going to have aftershock either, as Unbreakable Will is available. Not going to get procced just yet, as Glid didn't want to flag and drag. They do get the Fate's Call out of Viper, though.
Most interesting thing for me, he refused to use his ultimate. The only reason to do that is to fight for the Drake, to fight now. That is a big call to hold on to your Alistar ultimate over your Kalista ultimate. But that is the decision they made. Are they going to back away as well? The answer is yes. So very surprising to see them hold on to that ult. Off the cooldowns, it feels like the more dispensable one.
Exactly. So Dragon is going to go over for free to SKT. It is the Ocean Drake, so not exactly high priority. Feels like we lucked out on the Drakes in game number 1. Just one pesky cloud, otherwise everything else was mountains and infernals, but SKT still going to be happy with having the monopoly on the Drakes against a Kalista composition.
And even more importantly, consider the game in which they have a monopoly on the Drakes, the game where they were double killed under turret with a flawless turret dive. This was the game that should have mirrored game number 1, with Griffin getting a Drake lead. Griffin haven't gotten that. For an assassination.
Yeah, that Cocoon is going to land that this time, as Faker's just going to get taken out. The CC bar too long, and now teleport can't be cancelled anymore. Khan has to get the hell out of here. Does get the stun in. The flash has to be used as SKT are the first ones on the rotation. Control ward goes down. Cleared backs away as Lehens was there to answer the call.
Seems when the Cocoon hits, the kill can be swift, Atlas. That was really fast onto Faker. They will be going on Lissandra hunting season to get Chovy side lane leads. That's my prediction. Now the game Griffin wants to plays out. In the mid lane, though, it's going to be Kalista hopping around. The Hurricane's finally done, so better lane control available for the Kalista.
Yeah, he's going to have the 2-item spike that we talk about, even with the QSS on top of it. But Teddy's made it to the Black Cleaver as well, so the Lucian is certainly online. That play onto Faker was certainly a fantastic one for Griffin, because now they've managed to get so much control here on this topside jungle, and Baron is a real threat. 2 items now on the Kalista. I mean, you've got a lot of tankability with Spiderlings available for Tarzan as well, and a decent amount of damage to come out, as Tarzan is going to do it again. Oh, Faker.
That's what happens when Elise starts it. You die fast. We said it about Riven. Saying the same about Faker. Nothing he can do here. Now, Baron threat from a Kalista and Elise. Their Baron speed is huge, although there's a solo kill to reference.
Yeah, solo kill is going to go down for Khan on the bottom side of the map, and Griffin are going to back away from the Baron. That was pivotal, because Sword had teleport advantage, and that was why they thought they could go for that Baron play.
They actually get their pants pulled down there, because they were ready to commit to it, like you say, with the TP advantage, and then it's forfeited in an instant. When the solo kill comes in, that was at this item breakpoint. The Death Stance, the Black Cleaver, all of the cooldown reduction, and clearly the solo kill potential. More armor will be stacked, but you need to find a way to live longer, as we just didn't see how even the man fight started.
Yeah, exactly. So 1-0-2 now for the Riven. Very scary for Sword, who wants 3 items to be picked up, and I guess when you get a Gargoyle Stoneplate, you'll have a better time, but not necessarily in the 1v1. Riven's still just going to have so much consistent damage against the Urgot.
It was the reason that Kingzone was favored against Griffin many times, was what about Khan versus Sword? Remember, that's what they would always talk about.
Yeah.
But Sword has always performed against his real-life friend in Khan and beaten him in lane again and again. I'll go back and look over these pretty fast kills Tarzan duking around Vision again. Look at that. This is another Metal Gear Solid moment.
Yep.
Where Faker says, surely he's not there.
Picks it up, misses a couple of cocoons in the early game, but hits the 2 that matter here.
But thank you to the observers. We learn how this happens. Actually comes over with the third Q with the cooldown reduction. He's going to have the next one available. Sword tries running away. He never invests his flash. Watch the wind slash. It's not actually to execute, but by this point, Sword, who had swapped over to Ghost, knows he has nowhere to go.
Yeah, that was actually Khan playing almost perfect Riven. Right there, nothing that Sword could really do apart from try and get that flash over the wall, but Riven can follow you. Griffin still going to have control here around this Baron area, and if you have a look at the gold, still 2,000 in the lead. SKT, if it does come to any sort of siege scenario or a position where they have a man advantage, the Mountain Drake will help them, but in a team fight, something like that, both Ocean and Mountain aren't going to mean too much. So this extra money on the Griffin side is going to be important. And you can see it has transferred into items. BF Sword now augmenting Viper's build. You've got 2 items now complete for Chovy's, just looking for that Guardian Angel. Now Teddy wants to take down this red buff, does do so as Griffin aren't able to close in.
But the advantage is split Atlas. That
Another
means
cocoon, Clit in trouble. Does use the stopwatch in time now as Teddy. Free hitting on the backside. Clit is going to flash out, but now Vanguard's Edge does come in. Marta's going to flash as Faker gets on out. This is really good disengage play as Khan has made it to the fight, and Lahen's very, very low.
It's really important to remember that all of SKT's advantages are around Khan. The 4 members of Griffin are stronger than the 4 members of SKT at this present point, and yet there's no kill. They're not able to turn it into anything. Point I wanted to get to is around Khan. SKT have a lot of priority, and around the Aurelia. The reverse is true for Griffin, and in that split scenario, Griffin don't get an advantage that seemed ready, and now Khan wants a cow.
Yeah. Oh, he's actually not going to go towards it as they're looking for a flanking play.
He has not been spotted, and Drake is live. Seems like the team fight is where SKT feel like they can find their advantage.
And you can see Khan just wanting to walk around Vision, but is it actually going to be too late? A very deep teleport comes in from Faker as Griffin have an idea that they're being routed. That's the disdain to come in. The Claw is very, very late as Marta is tanking up most of it. Double stun comes into the back line for the Riven, but has he bitten off too much as the Urgot gets the first kill? But Faker, so much damage in the backline, and Khan is able to keep himself alive for so long. Even Faker goes into his stopwatch. Khan gets one. It's onto the Spider as Lissandra does go down. Valor, will it be available? Yes, it will, as Khan's taking them on a merry ride in their own jungle. Do they chase the Riven, or do they try and deny this outer turret going down in the mid lane? As Khan's just taking them all over this map.
Because he's stopping them getting Baron. He wants to delay what he feels like is a pretty inevitable death, and he might escape.
Yeah, he doesn't even hit Lahen's. He has to invest his flash. The headbutt's now on cooldown. Stun does come in with the trample, but Viper isn't actually going to get there in time. Khan's just too fast.
And they're actually on the Mountain Drake at the same time. Now, Chovy is a raid boss. They need to really consider their options here. Sword does not have smite.
And this is what happens when Khan levels up his play. I guess he just changes how SKT are able to play. I feel like in the last series that we saw between these two teams in the first round robin, it would have been a very different story. Instead, they partially lose a fight, and then things are a problem.
This was a fight that was even better than any words could do justice. They see 3 members, they go and say, okay, we're being flanked, let's kill 1. Consider how close some of the deaths are here, because if there's 2 at the start, it's over. Max range cocoon hits, but watch the immune on the flawless timepieces here. Khan and Tarzan, both immune, fatal damage, and we know that Khan lives through this. The Death Stand stops it, he gets the heal from the Triumph, and they leads them under a merry chase. The Viper's flash, Lahen's flash, and the better part of a minute and a half buys SKT. Khan living and a Mountain Drake. They get so much, and it's all through Khan.
Yep, absolutely everything, and now he's got a GA on top of that, so it's going to be even more difficult to kill him. 30 CS advantage against this nerfed Urgot, and Khan's found him one more time. Good knock-up comes in, but looks like Khan, he's just interested in shoving this wave forward, not biting off more than he can chew, and that's the kind of Khan that we feel really good watching.
It's why I thought he would play more Riven after his first game last year where he got a pentakill against GP, back in the GP blind pick meta. Riven can run away with games. We've all played them in solo queue where You say, please gank my lane, and the jungler says, no, I can't, it's Riven. And that's the reality here, is he's in such a big spot, but that's what they have. They have the one that is strong. Griffin is supposed to be winning in the 4, but we're having these amazing team fights where Griffin is getting less than expected, because SKT are just, and I mean just, outplaying them.
Yeah. Hair of a beast, I think, is how you talk about it. SKT now trying to get vision around this Baron. The face check onto the Elise could be a problem, but Chovy in even more trouble as Khan's teleported in. They're committing to this one. Cataclysm goes down after the flash, but the Sterix is there. Clid tanking up the turret. Gargoyle, Stoneplate is there. Chovy just tanking this one up. Khan eventually gets it. The GA is going to keep him alive for a moment, but how long is Faker? Makes his way forward. Double kill for the Riven, and Khan once again, an absolute godlike Riven performance.
Exactly, and there's nothing Tarzan can do. After he goes in, he dies in the AoE, like we predicted against this Riven. That means SKT turn on Baron. What can Griffin do? They have no smite. Do they have no chance?
They've got no smite, no teleport in order to get Sword, to pick up a smite, nothing like that. The exhaust is what's there, and Griffin, they want to fight for this good double knock up there from Lahen, but Faker gets in, stuns everyone up. Yeah, Viper is free hitting from the backline, no matter. It's going to go down. That is a gigantic grinder from Sword, is now cleared. Limps away. Teddy at full health, but he's not going to be able to do too much here, and they've denied the Baron. Can they get more?
And that's the thing you have to remember around Baron. In those moments, you have to ask, what do we have? What is our power to wield? Like you say, it isn't a smite, but they have two tanky boys and Renset ready Callista, and the front line with Baron assisting is enough for the first kill to come in, SKT to limp away, and have they actually lost the Baron?
Well, they could potentially, as Lahen's, he's going to stand stalwart outside the Baron pit. Control ward goes over, Clid is in vision, he does know what's going on here, but the smite I don't think is going to be enough. There's so many sticks in this Baron, you can see them protruding, and the number on this friend is going to be so high. Don't even need it really, as Tarzan's going to get that smite, and Clid's not even going to try for the steal.
Oh boy, how come game 2 is backing up game 1, and it's so effortlessly. Chovy, like the Riven, is very powerful, but that's 3 bad guys with a reliable CC, so it takes a lot of time here, but Chovy lives, and this is what the Riven would do in the reverse scenario. They chase onto him, notice that Tarzan gets in, gets a Spider Form Q, and then basically dies as an afterthought after Guardian Angel. Look at this, just dies so quickly. That is not something Elise can do. We get onto the Baron. What do Griffin have? No smite, but Viper says, give me a front line and I will do damage. They turn onto him. Viper is under no threat, and all Teddy can do is hit Lahen's through ultimate, does no damage in the fight, and there is no frontliner like that available now that GAs and other tools are down for SKT.
Yeah, and Teddy almost had an opportunity to try and go aggressive, but didn't want to throw away his life there after the fight was already lost. Griffin going to claim some bot side control as Khan's going to get rid of this last remaining outer turret. Teddy is very scary, almost Infinity Edge online for that 4th item.
Oh,
there's the flash Q, and Faker once again just annihilated.
How can you self-ult? They're so decisive on all those moments, they're going for more.
Yeah, exactly right. Lahen's going to get another pulverizer headbutt, clears a ragdoll, and now he's dead. Viper grabs that one with the Ren. Khan, the last bastion of hope for SKT, but Sword, he's even got a GA now.
There's never a reaction time, you're always all in. He's interrupted from Flag and Dragon. That's why they pick up the kill on Kled, who dies with his flash up, interrupted with the Alistair coming in from the Fate's Call. They have Baron, and it's 5v3. They want at least an inhibitor right now, Atlas.
Yep, 20 seconds until Faker is back up again. He does have teleport available, but I don't know what that means necessarily for saving this mid inhibitor. Tarzan's even going to leave. He feels like he's not even necessary for this fight, and he's absolutely right. As Viper is going to be able to auto this inhibitor down. Base broken. And Griffin are going to be able to do so.
And they got the fallback Infernal. That's why Viper goes back, clears out control wards, and starts this. We're seeing teleports. We're seeing more action.
Yeah, that's so many teleports, but Faker's now right in the middle of the team. I don't know what this one's for, but it's not looking like a great maneuver. Is going to be able to use his Zhonya's, but SKT can't catch up in time. Into the grinder you go, Faker, and is that some tilt we're seeing here from the mid laner of SKT?
Faker is the player who 5 seconds before the action happens already called, he's already got it, but that's been Griffin feasting on him in little half-second moments where they get the drop on Faker before he gets the drop on them, and that's repeated a couple of times now. Now it gets an Infernal, they've lost the mid lane inhibitor. And big winners are the fans of 3 games, because we're knocking on heaven's door when it comes to the full best of 3 between Griffin and SKT.
Yeah, Teddy's managed to farm things up. I think he might have an Infinity Edge on this next back, but let's have a look at this once again.
They think Faker could be here, and it's blind Atlas. They blind pull the trigger.
God.
There's blind cocoons, and you know what you can say about Tarzan? He missed a lot of them. There's the interrupt, by the way, on the flag and drag. Tarzan is a really good player. He hasn't had the best Elise game, but how big are your balls to flash cocoon blind after the start of this game? Remember, this game happened. He's a pro player, and he still does it.
And he got two pretty ridiculous cocoon misses in the early game, but I think that is going to redeem you almost entirely. I don't even understand how that works, as Faker is apparently having a little bit of an issue here, audio-wise. I think that will mean that we'll be back in relatively quickly. 6,000 gold the lead for Griffin as it stands.
Most pro players consider this situation. You're Tarzan. Man, the early game has gone bad. And you haven't had a lot to deal with this season. Everyone's talking about how you're the best in the world. You know, you missed those early cocoons. What if you blind flash cocoon miss? The replay shows it. You're like, Tarzan, that's the 5th time this game. What a crap performance. Everyone's out there on Inven, Naver, Reddit. Terrible performance, this Elise. What a joke. You just don't do it, right? Every player goes into risk minimization, self-preservation, and says, actually, I'll be carried. My teams are already doing pretty well. I don't need to be a match winner. It's the balls to flash cocoon blind there in a scenario where you take what is kind of a 65 game and suddenly, instantly, it's a 75% game. And that's what separates good players, maybe even great players, from some of the greatest. It has not been a great game. We won't rewrite history. But just the decision to put yourself out there and stand to be accountable is what greatness is all about.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. And remember, he has Lahens on his team. The Flash Cocoon extraordinaire, whether he misses or not.
And we have to remember what SKT have. Just the most fed Riven, who now has Guardian Angel backup, Mercurial Scimitar for the QSS we alluded to earlier. His Elixir, he doesn't need more damage. He just wants a bit more CC reduction in health with the Elixir of Iron. There's still a team fight that Khan carries, and he's put in just an unbelievable shift after being one of the main reasons that Griffin easily turned over SKT in the first round robin.
We have to remember as well that SKT managed to pick up 2 Mountain Drakes as well, as Fate's Call now on cooldown. Teddy gets that one out by trading his ultimate for it. I'd say probably a fair trade, as he will have his ult back off cooldown a bit quicker. But Khan's now getting closed in on.
Yeah, let's send 5 bad guys against Khan from now on.
Yeah. But Faker, he's on his own mission. Should be able to answer here with his Demolish proc on the top inner turret.
Baron not being up means that Griffin don't want to actually pull the trigger on a more aggressive turret dive. They've been lulled into a false sense of security around killing the Riven enough times now. They're going to pull away.
So much vision available here, so Khan can't actually move up to try and challenge Sword at this point in time. Faker is going to be able to go home. Probably will have a few more items available to himself, and thankfully has the Zhonya's off cooldown. But 2, 6, and 3 is not a scoreline that he's going to be very happy about. Remember, proud player is Faker. They win this game.
We talked about how we liked SKT when it came to side lane assignments, but things like Baron and the game state we're in means that's not relevant. And where Griffin had the advantage in the 5v5s is kind of through Teddy's woes. He doesn't have access to anyone he can kill. Every time he tries to free order someone, it's a damn Alistair or a Stoneplay Urgot or Chovy who might kill him. So he's actually unable to match just the Ren damage that's threatened by Kalista in these fights. So because of that difference, the frontline difference, that Alistair and Urgot can't be emulated by Braum Riven, it's not what the champions do. That's where the struggles have been so far, is that SKT has a lot of power, and their Riven, like we've mentioned, is so strong in the one. But Griffin just keeps saying, if we plop down 3 control wards and start an objective, you have to come, and that is a smart read that for now is getting them incremental advantage that still aren't game-ending. It's only a 5,000 gold lead at 37 minutes.
Yeah, and we've got a minute until that inhibitor is back up again as well for SKT. They still need to keep pushing this mid-wave, but that's exactly what you want to be doing when you're fighting for Baron Vision anyway, so not too much of a problem.
Notice they can walk up. Sword doesn't have teleport right now. I'm not sure if he has teleport available, but he definitely has heal. Would have to cycle through that.
Faker's going to get headbutt pulped here as Marta stands behind him. That might be the bait-in, but the Fate's Call is available. Faker in trouble. Is going to get himself out of there. Teleport not up, and Griffin are going to use this reset chance as a time to go for this Baron. Already Viper is putting the Rend in there.
Second cycle, it's exhaust, so remember Urgot can't be there. Khan's coming first.
Yep, Hens still tanking this one up. Cleared doesn't know that he's quite there yet as the trample is set up.
Hens knows where Khan is. It's important information.
This Baron is going extraordinarily low as Faker's looking for this flank. Should be able to claw his way forward. Gets on top of the Baron. It's the Callista that picks it up. But can SKT actually win the fight? The cow is down first, but Teddy is stunned on the backline. Chovy diving for him. Marta could be his first one to go down, but he can see the damage. This is just ludicrous in the backline. He's going to go down to the G, and SKT, they just can't get back to the fight. Sword even holds on to his GA in amongst all of it.
That could have been the moment. The Baron steal was up, and they're looking for more.
Oh, Tarzan taking so much damage there. The GA is going to get popped as the back is stopped on Sword's side. Griffin still trying to do more. They know that Urgot is dead. But look at this. The inhibitor has just respawned and it should get taken down. And look at the minion wave on the top side.
Tarzan has to face it. This was guerrilla warfare. He'll die instantly.
Oh my goodness. He's able to get himself out of the way. That means the back is going to get stopped. This is actually ludicrous. Okay, the cocoon is going to land and the back is going to get continued here by the Lucian. He gets in there and now Tarzan, perfect timing, going to jump on top of Marta. Teddy, can you actually do it? Can you save this game? And I don't know whether you actually can. Clit is going to get back up again. Viper dancing around, and Griffin have tied up the series.
But man, was it close, Atlas. We see the moment where it ends. The crowd is dumbfounded. But we're getting the entire best of 3, and already you're thinking, wouldn't this be just the greatest best of 5 if it ends up being the LCK Spring Final, like right now it appears to be?
Yeah, if this is a preview to what we're going to see at the end of the season, I want to buy even more tickets than just for myself because I'd want to have room to expand and grow on my chair because it's just going to be absolutely insane. Oh my goodness, I barely even know what I'm saying anymore. This series is just out of control, and now we're up to a deciding game number 3 between SKT and Griffin. Everyone saw the potential in this SKT roster. I don't think we've ever seen it to this level as we can see here today up against Griffin. Because even though things went horribly wrong in the earlier stages of the game, SKT still made it extremely even. As we got to the mid-game, it's an absolute dream come true.
And the SKT fans have been dumbfounded. They thought this could have been the 2-0 they were looking for. Even the Griffin fans weren't overjoyed at the end. There wasn't the cheers that we heard at the end of game number 1. The series is so finely poised, and SKT, to their credit, did a lot right in this game. But Griffin had that decisive streak, even after the mismanaging of the first few Elise plays. This was a game when we saw Elise just incidentally killed after the GA Riven came back to life under the top lane outer turret, where you're like, this Elise is not going to do anything. And yet, Tarzan still found a moment to be pivotal, and they just about closed through some of the pressure they got back.
Yeah, and the thing that I absolutely loved about this as well was if we go back to the draft, the Callista was the first pick, and the Callista was so pivotal to how Griffin played this one out. They guaranteed the Barons with it. As you can see, didn't necessarily do the most damage. That belongs to Chovy on the Aurelia, who was able to dash around and get things done. You can see Teddy trying his little heart out on the Lucian. But it's a very similar scenario. Blue side looking much stronger here, but the graph isn't as linear as we saw in game number 1.
And the game is not as simple to evaluate. Chovy way ahead of Faker, but I would say the same thing about Sword being way behind top lane. So now it's all that mouth-watering best of 1.
Yep, exactly right. This one's for all of the marbles. We're going to be switching the sides once again as SKT go back to the blue side for a deciding game number 3. Can they do it? Can they give Griffin their very first loss of the season? Or will Griffin now run away with it again? We'll have to find out after the break.